right, let's go ahead and get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this session, the Pathways to Data Services. This is the first session, a series of 4. This is Building Out Data Services. It'll be a panel with invited speakers. My name is Justin Dela Cruz. This is an offering from the NNLM's National Center for Data Services. This is our short course. And all of these topics in the series will be around starting, establishing, and building out data services at your institutions, different ideas around those topics. So today's session is a panel session, and I'll invite our speakers to introduce themselves. Basically, we will have 90 minutes here to hear from their backgrounds, and what they've been working on with data services at their institutions. We will have a Q&A with them to talk to each other. And we also have an activity for everyone present to reflect on data services in their area at their institution and see what you can do to start planning around establishing and expanding services. After the activity, we'll also have time for audience Q&A. So if you have thoughts and feedback and questions during, feel free to place your ideas in the chat and we will collect those. And otherwise, we'll have time at the end for your questions to answer at that point. So let's go ahead and get started. Our 3 presenters today are Songyao Chen from Towson University, Adam Johnson from Coastal Carolina University, and Michaela Narlock at Indiana University. And we thought it'd be a good idea to have them introduce themselves and sort of their job role and experiences in this area and sort of give you some background on what they've been working on. So we'll go ahead and start out with Songyao, if you'd like to take over.
Thank you, Justin. I have just a few slides I want to share. So I'm going to just, okay, so can everybody see my slides here?
Yep, looks good, thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. So it's just a very briefly about me. As you can see, my name is Songyao Chen, and right now I am the data science librarian working for Albert S. Cook Library, Towson University. And this is my career life. And I got this link on the title, which will be which will link anybody who clicked it to my LinkedIn profile. So if by any chance this presentation title will be shared, feel free to click it. And the related experience and background of me is that from August of 2022, I joined the team of Albert Cook Library of Towson University to present working as the data science librarian, covering the entire service provision of the research data services, which I built up almost from scratch. Right now, the research data services provided by our library covers mainly 3 primary components: data management plan, data visualization, and data analysis, which we call it data analytics, and data repository and data sets with several different ways and methods of providing. It's like consultation, small group discussion, library instruction, and consult and attend the study project team, etc. And of course, workshops are another very important way of providing the services. And before the August 2022, I was working for Joint Library, South Carolina University from September 2017 to July 2021. And I was working as data services librarian as well. It's like I am providing almost the same services for the ECU community. But since they have built up their own services, so what I was doing is just develop, enhance it, and promote and provide it as a data services librarian. So basically, I think I have done a lot of things since I've joined Towson. I have conducted a lot of library instructions, consultation sessions, small group discussions, workshops, of course, and I tried very best to develop a lot of services, deployed the dmp2.org integration with our system, and deployed the Open Science Framework as our institutional data repository recently. Later, there will be some case study that I would like to share with you. Just want to share some of the experience in the development of our research data services. This is my education background. I came to Pittsburgh to finish my master's program and get my release on 2017. And during my career for Eastern Carolina University, I've completed that program, professional certificate program for business analytics in 2019, right before the pandemic. So that's all I have for today in the self-introduction. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead and pass it over to Adam.
All right, give me just 1 second to get my presentation to cooperate with me. Can everybody see that okay?
Great.
Perfect, thank you so much. All right, well, hello everybody. I'm Adam Johnson. I am the Learning Technologies and Data Librarian at Coastal Carolina University. And I'm going to be doing the activity later, so I won't give away too much, but just to kind of preface a little bit about Coastal, a little bit about me and where our program was. I came to Coastal in fall of 2023, and my role was a new role for the university. We hadn't previously had a dedicated data function before, and we were kind of in a period of expansion. I'll talk more about that in a second, but before that, I had a kind of a varied career. I did not start off as a data librarian. I ended up here through kind of happenstance in some fun ways. But I was originally sort of in the arts and a more traditional reference librarian background. And as I kind of developed in my career, I became more drawn to data. As I was getting my MLIS, I was more on the info science track and became very interested in how we research and catalog data. And that kind of led me to a role like this. Just to kind of let you know about Coastal itself, it is a public four-year comprehensive university in Conway, South Carolina, which is in the Myrtle Beach metro area. Our 2025 Carnegie classification is research colleges and universities, and we do have a stated goal of moving into R2 by the next round, so we are kind of expanding our research profile. Our total enrollment is a little over 11,000 students now and growing quite rapidly, and we primarily focus on undergraduates, a wide variety of disciplines. But we do have growing master's and doctoral programs, especially trying to grow our profile in health sciences. So that kind of precipitated the need for thinking about the services we provide for data and those going into funded research. And my position was created in part as a result of that. Just to kind of give you a sense of how we started, we had very limited data services support. But again, those increased research priorities led us to plan for a rollout of targeted services and thinking about ways that we could actually reach what's currently going on campus and kind of scale ourselves for a sort of future-ready vision. We did envision a top-down faculty-led approach because of our nature. We do not yet have really high graduate level research activity in a variety of programs. We do have a few doctoral programs, but we don't have what I would classify as a high doctoral level activity. So we really wanted faculty to kind of lead the approach where we were. So as I was building out data services at my institution, that was kind of where I thought the target would lie first. So what we ended up doing is collaborating with our Office of Research to isolate the high producing faculty, and we surveyed them. And I'll talk more about that when we actually get to the activity. But that's essentially how we came up with our needs and how we framed a rollout over the past couple of years. So as a mid-sized, as I said, primarily undergraduate institution, we wanted to make sure our data was right-sized for that initial rollout, and we wanted to make sure we weren't offering too much or too little for what we were going to do. We didn't want to be too ambitious in our offerings in the sense of building things that no one was actually going to need, but our hope was eventually to kind of build a program where we were right-sized for right now, and it was growable enough. We had enough space to grow into something a little bigger. How it's going. So from 2023 on, we built a new library space in 2024. That's the Thompson Library. We do have 3 library buildings now. And in that space, one of our plans was a data visualization and VR lab. That space is now launched and up and running. We've obviously installed software on those computers to meet researcher needs. Most of the programs you're probably already familiar with, things like SPSS, Tableau, ArcGIS, etc., for various kinds of data. We have purchased new subscription data sets. So we've done some curation work. We've added resources to the collection. We've also done SAGE Research Skills Data Visualization Package so that we have ready resources to give to students and faculty who are preparing to share and visualize their data. We've also created some comprehensive research guides on sharing data openly, DMPs, things like that. We do have a series of workshops on data services, finding data sets, and data management. I also do kind of a general overview that I offer for students regularly. And we are expanding our collaboration across the campus. So we're reaching out to more programs beyond our kind of heavy hitters now. So we're working on ways to expand and kind of increase our education efforts. And that's where we are at the moment. And that's what I do at Coastal. So I will turn it over to Michaela next.
Hi all, good afternoon. Thanks so much for having me here. So I'm gonna share my screen, which I practiced, so here's hoping it actually cooperates today. Okay, so hi, my name is Michaela. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I am the Director of Research Data Services at Indiana University. I think I might be the newest one of the 3 panelists. I only started in my position just about 6 months ago, so still new here. To give you context on Indiana University, I entered a slightly different situation. So IU is a system of public universities throughout Indiana. We have 2 core campuses, one in Bloomington and one in Indianapolis, as well as a series of kind of satellite campuses. Over the past approximately 15 years, data services at Bloomington and Indianapolis developed separately, first and foremost, and they developed at different kind of speeds and with different long-term stability, just quite candidly. So at Indy, we have had one amazing data librarian for about 15 years. Her name is Heather Coates. You may know her. So data services there have grown pretty steadily, remained constant, but they're just one campus of the many at IU. And Bloomington has seen personnel changes over time that have impacted the services. There have been kind of growths, kind of highs and lows as we've progressed. For the past 2 years, IU has also had what's known as the Research Data Commons. This is an initiative out of our Office of Research to connect IU researchers across IU to the various research data services on campus, because we actually have a ton of them and they're distributed and it's very confusing and hard to find, quite candidly. So I'm taking a different approach to my presentation and telling you all how I got started in this sort of role. Again, knowing that there's already all of these services happening across my campuses. First, I went slowly and focused on building a network. I invested a lot of time in just learning like my institution, what does it even mean to be at IU? And I did what every good librarian does and conducted a gap analysis just to learn more about the kind of gaps that we in the libraries could fill. These are just kind of some of the things I have done. So first and foremost, this might sound a little maybe obvious or rudimentary, but I just spent time learning my organization's chart. Even if your institution isn't huge, there's still going to be complexity and nuance. And especially at academic institutions, no two institutions have the same even acronyms, or, what's called Office of Sponsored Projects one place might be the Office of Research Administration another. And so just knowing those different acronyms and who was where actually took a lot of time and has been really helpful as I've been talking to people to be like, okay, that's Aura, they're part of this. You get the picture. This kind of came up actually just with Adam's presentation moments ago. We didn't even plan this, but I'm really glad to hear it. I've also started by finding my champions, finding the people who already use the data services or who want to use data services in the libraries, and really working with them to build the energy and not worrying too much about those that aren't quite as invested in data services yet, because we'll get them. And the last thing I think is really important is to have a clear and consistent message and story and narrative about your data services. That way you can talk about the impact. We can talk about all of this in more detail later. I'm just kind of giving you a high-level overview. The other thing I did was conduct a gap analysis. The way I approached this was I took the realities of academic data sharing, data management and sharing activities. I can put a link in the chat in a minute. I took all of those activities by life cycle, and I mapped out if they were offered at IU, were they dependent on a campus, like only for Indy, only for the School of Medicine, how developed the service was, which unit or units were running it, and then I have links. You can't see it, it's kind of cut off. And this was really helpful for just getting a lay of the land and knowing where I really didn't need to invest energy versus where I did. I actually didn't end up finishing this. As a spoiler alert. I only got through the first 2 or 3 phases because by that point in time, I had met so many people that I actually could fill out the rest if I wanted to. I won't belabor that point, but we can talk about it more later. And just some guiding kind of principles that I'm taking as we're building our services and formalizing them is making sure that we're really good at 1 or 2 things, and then we can grow from there. We don't want to be mediocre at a bunch of things. We want to be really good at just a few things. Since we're kind of, Bloomington, we're kind of starting from scratch, but we're kind of joining forces with our other campuses. We can capture data as we go, both quantitative and qualitative, which is going to help us tell that story. Because that story, that demonstrates the impact, the adoption, that's way more important than just the raw data. And I'm making sure that I treat all of my relationships as essential and non-negotiable, because in order to offer robust data services on campus, it cannot live in one institution. The Office of Research Administration knows things I don't. They interface with researchers at different points than I do. But I need to make sure that we have a good relationship so we can refer researchers to one another and make sure we're not duplicating efforts. I know that was a really, really fast overview. I can't wait to talk more. If you have direct questions, you can email me. Looking forward to chatting.
Thank you, Michaela. I heard from Sonia, you mentioned a case study at your institution, so I wondered if you might want to talk about that now before we dive into the panel discussion. I think you have slides for that too, right?
Sure, no problem. I can do it now. Okay. So this is my case study or case sharing session about some cases that I think it's good to share with all of the attendees here. So I expect some discussions over all of this kind of cases or something like that. And please ignore the title because I really cannot find out a good title for all of this. So I'm using that editorial title. So yeah, this is some kind of a case study. Some background introduction is that, like I said, I joined the Cook Library in 2022 as the data science librarian. And I would like to just briefly touch base is that Towson University right now is an M1 institution. We are on journey to R2. And like Coastal Carolina, we mainly focus on undergrad as well, but we do have several master's and doctoral program as well. And building up this research data services for the community is one of the important components for us on the journey to R2. So, like I listed here, the first two tasks when I joined are, number one, lead that integration, system integration between the dmp2.org and our own university system with SSO. So all of the individuals, affiliated individuals, including the students and the faculty, can just log in dmp2.org directly with their university credential. And in the meantime, I built up a research data services LibGuide from scratch. I tried very best to include all of the useful resources related to research data services into that LibGuide. And I keep updating this LibGuide every day from then till today. So it's like I tried to include all of the updated latest announcement from the funders, some latest news about either the data management plan or the data repository into that, something like that, and I keep updating it till today. The second part of the background is that from the very beginning, I focus much on promotion by partnering several different divisions of the university to promote the research data services. First of all, is the vice president for research. That's the very first thing that that I have done is talking with my dean about, like, right now we're building up our own research data services for our faculty members, and I would like to let everybody know about that. There right now, library is the place that they can approach to when they have such kind of concerns and issues related to data management plan, data visualization, etc. And the Office of Sponsored Programs and Research, we call it OSPR, which is the place for faculty to find out the grant opportunities. And so it linked to the data management plan, which is a required section of all of the proposals. I have conducted several workshops and training sessions for them during their own training sessions, promoting our research data services and train the faculty about how to compose a data management plan using dmp2.org, as well as what I have done in my own workshops series. And yes, we have a faculty excellence division called FACET, Faculty Academic Center of Excellence at Towson, which conducted a lot of workshops and training sessions every semester, and I have worked with them to promote and conducted my workshops for the community to let them know that the research data services right now are here for you to use. And there is another, I should call it, it's more like a council or more like a committee. We call it School of Emerging Technologies. It's a council that inside our College of Science and Mathematics, and we call it SET, and from SET we release different funds and grants for different study. And as one of the advisory board member, I use the that platform of SET to listen to the faculty members about what they want from the library regarding the research data services, etc. And of course, colleges and departments are the basic things that I'm using for promotion. I tried very best to attend their research gathering, faculty meetings, even sometimes the dean's meetings to present our existing and in developing research data services as well. Of course, the promotion includes conducting workshops, like I said, attending faculty meetings and the partner events, etc. There is a case, of course, this is just a very simple slide page. First of all, this case is referred by one of our partners, Facet, and it is for a faculty from our Department of Mass Communication, and it is about the data sets and the data repository, which is one of the 3 main components of the research data services I'm providing. Specifically, I am supporting the searching of the secondary research data sets that required or needed by a study project led by this professor. And in addition to that, I also supported with part of the writing of the paper and the part of searching and picking an appropriate data repository for the deposit of the research data sets curated and created by this whole project. The good thing is that finally we ended up with the paper published, and as the librarian, I was listed as one of the authors, which I think could be a very good story, successful story for the data services librarian career life of mine. And of course, the how about that? Of course, I was feeling that the partnership that we have built up beforehand is very useful in such kind of cases. And thank you, Michaela. And the number 2 case is, again, this is referred by the SET, School of Emerging Technologies. And I was meeting with this professor from our Department of Nursing during one of the advisory board members meeting. And she was looking for somebody that can help her with the data analytics part of one of her study projects. So I was supporting her with the SPSS data analysis and part of the writings of the paper as well. And right now we are drafting the paper based on of course, we had a lot of discussions and consultations. We have weekly regular meetings talking about all kinds of things. And right now it's in a very good direction, in going to be published eventually, but it's still ongoing. So this is the second case I want to share. Something else I want to share is that I have mentioned that research data services LibGuide that I built up at the very first beginning of my career in Towson. And here is the research data services LibGuide statistics graphs that I have found from our system. As you can see, I think as a LibGuide, I got this number of views from the August 2022 to the September 2025, and I believe the views looks good. I mean, it's all like 200 to 300. That which means every time I promote my services with the LibGuide link, people were willing to go to the research LibGuide and find out some resources that they want. And so back ways they can just approach to me to request some help or some supports. Of course, most of the cases that I have supported are just maybe 1 or even 2 tops consultations, like could you please look at the data management plans for me, and that's it. No following things, but still a lot of cases and a lot of views here. And here is the the statistics that I have done and maintained using Power BI, and I would like to share that with you. As you can see, all of these years, I've got in total 47 cases, and upon those cases, I have 112 meetings in total with 22 affiliations, and I got these 2.4 meetings per case. And luckily, this includes 40 researchers and 2 published papers. No, there's 2 published papers here, and 2 cases are promise authorship. And actually should be 3, but one of them is not right now because of the NIH fund cutting. It's nobody can say about what happened next. Yeah, but since I'm not so sure if I share this presentation file, the user can view that, but I will just keep it that way. I'm not so sure about that. I apologize. But I just want to let you know for you to have a visualized view of the cases that I have supported since I joined Towson University as the data science librarian. And this is again my contact information. I would love to be approached and contacted by any of you for anything that you want to talk with you. So yeah, right now I'm willing to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you so much. Well, thank you all for your different backgrounds. You have a lot of different experiences, a lot of success stories. I think I want to transition into, a panel discussion where we could talk about some topics that you've all shared about and things that you're working on. When you think about collaboration or working together or outreach, what kinds of things do you think about? Have you had any experiences where you've learned something about collaborating? You learn what you need to do on your end or what others need from you. Song Yao mentioned a bunch of different departments and groups at your institution that you've worked with. Is there any one like particular that you learned a lesson from, or for others on the panel if you want to chime in?
Am I supposed to talk something?
Yeah, if you want to answer about maybe something with Facet or SET where you had an experience where you learned how to better collaborate with other people, or if you have a tip for other people looking to make these kind of partnerships.
Yeah, well, I have a lot of experiences that I think it's good to be shared. But something like that is that every time I attend any meeting outside of the library, I will just hold some of my business cards with me and distribute it as many as possible. Well, that happens during the first 1 year of my career in Towson, is that I mentioned all of the resources that I have built up, the LibGuide, the upcoming events at the end of every email of me sending out to other departments or faculty, like you're encouraged to view all of this kind of things, all about that. And the other thing is, the very good thing is the office of Facet is just beside my office. So I can, meet with them or stop by their office almost every day or something like that. So I can say hello to maybe all of them every day, so they're familiar with my face. And sometimes in some kind of a small talks, they are familiar with what I am doing. So right now, Facet is a place that I will visit regularly, and likewise, there will be, my name will pop up in their mind when they are conducting some of the workshops for the faculty, and they will always ask, like, would you want to take a part into this kind of workshops or something, etc. talking with the liaison team inside the library is another way that I find effectively in promotion. It's like, because I myself is also a liaison, so when we are meeting as a team or something like that, I would always take maybe just 5 minutes talking about this kind of research data services promotional things. And I also conducted some internal workshop specifically for my colleagues talking about what I am doing and what I can provide, something
Oh,
like
that's
that.
a great
So
idea.
yeah, this is just something that right now in my mind that I would like to share. Yeah. Sorry, I talked too much. Sorry.
No, that was great. I like the tip, especially about just getting your face out there, walking by and saying hi to people. I think that's a great, uh, easy way to start getting to know people. Do you mind also, yeah, stopping your sharing? There you go. Michaela, you have any tips?
Yeah, I mean, just to build on what Sun Yao said, one thing I developed very early in my time at IU was actually, yeah, outreach slides that other librarians can use, because like they're the ones who get in front of the disciplinary experts. And so like, I'm never going to have the same relationships they have with faculty. So I think that was a great point, Sun Yao, and I'm glad great minds think alike. In terms of collaborating, so I have a couple that haven't officially started yet because I'm still so new. But one of the things that I have found to be really successful is, and it won't be a surprise, are kind of those fundamentals of like taking really good notes, sending follow-up emails, being clear on what you can and cannot do. Like I cannot do anything with secure or sensitive like PII data. And so that helps make it really clear up front that I have boundaries not only on my time, but also on my expertise. And I think my final note before I turn it over to Adam is so I actually work entirely remotely, so I'm rarely in person on campus. And so I have a lot of the cold call emails. And so like being okay with not hearing back, you have to get used to that. And also like, don't be afraid to just email someone and say like, hey, I saw this cool paper you wrote. Do you have time to talk about it? Even if it doesn't go anywhere, like Sun Yao was saying, you're getting your face out there. Adam, what about you?
Yeah, thanks. That's actually a really excellent segue, Michaela, because I will say I think it's important to leverage your library colleagues as well. I have had conversations with all of the subject area liaisons in my particular department as well. And we try to, have those slides ready every year with like what services we provide. I'm never more than like 10 feet away from this like handy dandy handout I make about our services and what that means, and something that they can kind of pass out to faculty when they go to those in-person face-to-face meetings. I think that's essential. And also think about areas where you can partner service-wise where data kind of intersects. So for example, I have a good working relationship with Ariana Baker, who's our ScholarComm librarian. She does all the scholarly communications and data and like publication stuff. And that kind of naturally feeds data and data sharing. So we've been able to collaborate a little bit on developing workshops where we can and kind of presenting that as a whole package. Yes, I will share a copy of the handout, Justin, if you want to post it somewhere.
Definitely.
It's specific just to Coastal, but please feel free to use it as an example. It's got QR codes on it because faculty always have their phones, so just like students. Yeah, collaborating with those folks, collaborating with the makerspace. We have a makerspace in our library, and I've been able to do some instruction where, for example, a geography class was working with GIS data, and we could turn that into 3D printed topographic maps. And there are some chances where you can kind of play around instructionally as well. And on the more like career related side, it's nice to get a publication out of some of those too when you can, right? So, but those collaborations are essential, and really thinking about departments that are already doing stuff with data and asking, hey, is there any gap you have? How can we fill that in? So I try to go to department meetings where I can. Especially departments I know that are reliant on a lot of data in their student projects. I try to get my face there and really hound those liaisons to let me go to those meetings when they work. So yeah, absolutely.
I saw something that came up in the chat that reminded me of what you just said is that have you ever had any conflicts with groups on campus that provide data services or other technology support? And how did those turn out? Like, were you able to describe what you're doing versus what they're doing? Did you have a meeting of minds? What happened with that kind of stuff? If
Oh,
so.
that's a good question. I wouldn't say we've had conflict. I think part of it has been, especially when thinking about what services we roll out, I've had to be very intentional in trying to see where the gaps might be. For example, like our geography program has its own GIS lab, right? But it's only open certain times. Students can only get in there in conjunction with a class. They can only get in there at set times of the day. So they might need that geographic data at other times when they're working on their own projects. So I could arrange to have stuff be installed on our PCs and then it fills a gap. So I've tried to kind of approach it from that angle. And I haven't encountered any antagonism per se. It's just been more like oh, we already do that, and then I'm like, great, well, is there something that you need that if you've got it on your system or if you're cataloging and storing the data here, is that really working for you? Can we do something, that maybe expands that out or sends it in a different direction, increases your collaboration? So I try to kind of meet people where they are, but I wouldn't say I've had conflicts. It's really just been more of a way to kind of start the conversation and see where we can fit.
Gotcha. Michaela or Sonia, does anything else come to mind if you had misunderstandings or conflicts with other areas offering similar services?
Yeah, I would like to say I would not call it conflict because in my experience, those services, most of the services are provided in some kind of a specific way. And I would always try to talk to either the faculty or the student that approach to me for service okay, so first of all, we're librarians. We are not supposed to be, we're not supposed to be like a data analyst or a business analyst. What we are doing right now is to trying to integrate the resources that can be provided all over the campus and provided to you. So it's like it is not a conflict. It is just some place that you can approach to, and it is even some place or somebody that I can refer to when somebody is seeking such kind of a specific service from me. So I wouldn't call it a conflict. For example, we have a professor who's very good at in vivo the qualitative analysis tools, which I don't have any expertise in. So when anybody was approaching to me for this kind of specific services, I would always like, okay, I know somebody who is good at it. Would you mind to join me to talk to her about what she can help? If she cannot help, then I'm willing to learn some specific issue that's from you and learn from her to connect to each other to see if I can provide. This is a service that I am providing. So for me, there's always no conflicts, and there's always, I would call it always partnering. I can always find the opportunity to partnering with from this so-called conflicts.
That's great. All right. So I guess knowing everything that you know now after your time in service, is there anything you would do differently based on what you know, like lessons you've learned or other things you've picked up over the years? Like when you're starting out. So imagine that we have people in the audience who might be being asked to start data services at their library or work with their communities in that aspect. Like, is there anything you would tell them that you wish you had known when you started out?
Go first. Hilariously, I think I proposed this question for the panel and I don't have an answer ready, which is also kind of funny. I think I would emphasize what I said in my presentation about really going slow. at the beginning if you're starting, like spending time, like really understanding what already exists on your campus or other resources maybe in your state or larger, and trying to figure out where those gaps are that align with your expertise and the needs of your target audience, whether that be like faculty members or graduate students. Like an unmet need I know of at IU is that graduate student data analysis and visualization support. Often that's like a cost recovery model at IU, and like graduate students don't have money to pay these people for their work. And so like we've had to figure out like, we can't do data analysis, we can't be data analytics for the graduate students, but we can teach them kind of the basics and like get them started. So I think that's what like just really taking it slow, even if some moments you find yourself bored. I think it's way better to go slow at that beginning, because as soon as the word gets out that you offer data services, trust me, they will come. They absolutely will. Adam or Sanyao?
Yeah, I will agree. I think it's best to take a deliberate approach. That's my biggest piece of advice too. Do not plan to shoot for the moon in your first 6 months. Really spend time having those conversations with faculty, with student groups who are doing research, and start off offering one or two things that you can do really well. Don't jump right into something on the advanced level if you're not ready for it. Don't, send up by a bunch of data sets that may or may not be useful. Those kinds of things. Like, just really be deliberate and take your time to have those conversations and see what folks actually need. That's my biggest piece of advice.
Yeah, I can say I agree with both of you about all of kind of thing, and I agree that Michaela said when people really learn that what kind of services you're providing, they will definitely approach, and sometimes you'll be exhausted answering phones and replying emails. But I think that the very first thing that I have learned when I started that is that you or you must really understand exactly what you're providing. No, I should put it that way, is that what research data services is and what exactly you are able to provide for the moment. And another thing that I have learned, actually I have learned from a meeting that when I started with the OSPR, is like, please do not underestimate, or how to say that, do not devalue your services. Although you might think that dnptool.org is just a website that helps people to compose all of kind of things. But please don't think it's not important. It is very important for now. And at least it can save a lot of time for the researchers. And time costs money. So that is something else. Like if you lead everything to money, everybody will understand something like that. So yeah,
definitely. So thank you all for those points. We also gathered a few questions from the chat we'll save for later, because right now I thought we could shift to our activity, which is based around a worksheet and some information from Adam. So I'll go ahead and hand it back over to Adam to sort of explain what this activity is all about.
All right. So I'm going to take you all through the needs assessment survey that we did at Coastal Carolina, and just talk about the process of figuring out faculty needs. Michaela has that wonderful gap analysis. I'm so glad she shared as well. I think these are going to be helpful for anybody who's looking at getting something started and figuring out what they need. So this is really just kind of a brainstorming and ideation session, but I'll talk about our specific case and what we did and some of the findings we had that kind of shaped how we were, how we developed things. And then hopefully at the end of it, you guys will have a few minutes when we do breakout rooms to think about your own scenarios and how you might go about assessing faculty needs. So With that being said, I will go ahead and share my screen again. Get to the right slide here. Okay. All right. So just to give you a sense of the methodology of our survey, what we wanted to do was evaluate the data management needs and concerns among campus researchers. So data management, it started off with data management, I will say. That was our original goal. And then it kind of expanded from there. The survey targeted researchers who completed funded research. So we reached out to our Office of Research, we also are OSPRs, reached out to them and checked on who were the highest producing researchers who had gotten funded research within the past 3 years. And we got a list and we sent that out via email, and we conducted that survey over a period of 1 month. We wanted to give some time. So we developed it. It was a data management working group that we had at the time that has now transitioned into kind of a larger ScalComm working group. But we developed this survey in the fall of 23, ran it in the spring of 24, just to give you a sense of the timeline. And then the results we got kind of guided the development of our data services, things like the educational resources we are developing and putting out, our data management planning tools, and data processing and visualization services that we rolled out. So you can kind of get a sense of how everything fits together. So our key questions. We kind of split this into 3. So we started off really honing in on data management because that was our biggest kind of immediate perceived need. With the Nelson memo and everything else that was developing at the time, we wanted to make sure that framework was there. So we focused on asking them about what active projects they had, what data formats they were using, and did they know the data sharing requirements, right? That was the biggest thing we really wanted to assess is did our faculty who were producing this work know what requirements they had for sharing data openly, and could they tell us, that includes things like regulatory compliance. So FISMA, FERPA, and HIPAA were the big 3. And we asked, did they have to do any of those with the kind of research they did? Did they have to meet any of those requirements? And then storage and visualization tools. That was more kind of an add-on as we were developing the survey. We started to kind of plan for the build out of our new space, our new building. So we wanted to know, okay, do we have are there researchers who need to store physical things securely that they're not able to do on campus right now? Do they have backup practices in place? Are there data visualization tools that they use? Can we get a list so that we can make sure we have those kinds of things in our lab, right? And then what library support services do they need? Would they be interested in workshops? Because as we mentioned before, kind of talking through our discussions, there are some faculty who are already doing things or have robust data services in their department. So we wanted to make sure that we were able to reach out to them and say, okay, is there something you need from us? So we added a direct open-ended question there at the end as well. And then our findings, I'll just kind of quickly go through each area. Data management and preservation. We did have faculty, almost all of them said they were actively working on multiple data producing research projects. So the high producers had high research activity, which is about what you would expect. In terms of the data preservation plans, we found that there was a shocking lack of clarity on what plans that our faculty knew they needed. So they didn't really have a lot of clarity on, oh, do I need a DMP for this funded research now? How do I get one? Where do I go to create one? So that was an interesting finding. They kind of were like, well, I rely on the funder to tell me, was the basic response there. And then public data sharing. They mostly knew they had to share the data publicly, but their timelines for sharing were a bit inconsistent. So, they weren't all kind of lining up with what the funders were necessarily expecting. So we were able to highlight data management as a key area of education and a key area of services that we could kind of provide. In terms of repositories, file types, etc., very high interest in having a data repository. We do have an institutional repository for publications. We do not currently have our own repository for data, and 80% of respondents want access to that. We are investigating that, but that is, as you know, a long-term project. So that is something that is going to take a while to figure out. Yeah, 80%. I know, right? It's rare that you get that kind of consensus, but they were like, yeah, I would love one. And diverse data formats. So they needed stuff in all types of data, all formats. We had a lot of people. One thing that surprised us is a large amount of folks using audio-visual files. So photos, videos, things like that. But then we also, of course, had your standard stuff like rendering, code, graphics, raw Excel data, things like that too. But a variety of things. And then robust storage needs. Some of them said that their data sets are a terabyte or more for the kind of data they use. So they need something that will hold a lot of data. That also kind of informed us in terms of our lab. As you can see in the next bullet, that we wanted to make sure that we had storage within the lab for processing and visualization. So we did invest in a secure RAID storage 30 terabyte unit that's in there now. So we have a pretty good capacity, I think, for where we are at the moment. But yeah, we wanted to create that, and we wanted to make sure they understood the importance of redundant backups and data sharing. And we are finding, now that we've kind of put this stuff out, even this semester, we've had one team in biology approach us about building out backup services for their lab. So we've had some success in this department, which is great. And then compliance and metadata, just kind of looking at that as well. Very low familiarity, as I'm sure some of you folks who work with data would know. Not a lot of familiarity with the specifics, right? So we asked them what they needed to abide by when they did their research, and very low clarity. A lot of people were selecting uncertain. 63% were uncertain. So we know we have some work to do there. And then in terms of metadata and file challenges, we found that respondents faced difficulty with metadata standards, making their data FAIR compliant. They didn't always name things properly. They didn't include README. They weren't doing stuff in an archival format, right? So there was a lot of consideration there as well. And that, again, informed us in terms of what services we knew we had to provide or what workshops we have on the docket to develop. So that is a big impetus for us, knowing those regulatory awareness and metadata challenges are there, creating programming and workshops that actually kind of help people know how to store and share their data and be compliant with open data sharing provisions. So, yeah. Storage and visualization, that's the last area. And again, this was one we added as we were building out at that space, and we knew we wanted it to be a complement to our data services. So backing up, we added that backup space. We know that they are aware of the need for data security. They want automated solutions. That's something the library is not able to provide, but that is something that we can pass along to our IT department and try to make them aware, and we have, and hopefully that's going to yield some standardized solutions for them just beyond the cloud, because that's not always the most reliable thing for the kind of data that folks work with. So we are working actively on that in collaboration with IT. And then visualization tool usage. So 89% of respondents were actively using visualization tools. Excel was number one, which probably surprises nobody. SPSS, ArcGIS, and Adobe Illustrator, which was a bit of a surprise for us. But we do have a lot of folks who are visualizing things in the humanities. So that, again, when you think about the kind of work we do, may be less surprising. And then demand for training and resources, very high interest in workshops and tutorials, and almost unanimous consent that they wanted high-powered hardware. So we made sure we had really nice PCs in that new lab that could have higher graphics capabilities and the greater storage. So that informed all of our decisions and how we went about it. And again, I'll just kind of briefly touch on this, but these are what we highlighted as our priorities. So you can see support for data management plans, priority number 1, that's an immediate one. Infrastructure for data viz as well, another immediate one because we had a new space opening up and we knew that that needed to be built out. We are now working on figuring out a path forward for our data repository. We are speaking with other state institutions in South Carolina. We're on a committee with Pascal, who's our state library consortium, trying to figure out, can we do this as a group? And we are primarily interested in it for data, but we may end up going our own route individually as well in the future. It's all kind of up in the air, but we are actively researching. And then training on compliance and metadata. We know that we need to introduce more training on compliance and metadata. We've got some web resources up that kind of help things in the short term, but we want to have a more robust training program. I am doing a workshop for graduate students later this month on that specifically for our PhD students. And I know that the faculty are going to need some professional development as well. So that's hopefully by the time we get to spring, we will have a nice workshop rotation on compliance and metadata as well. And then that is essentially it. Now I'm going to turn it over to you all. So this is just kind of a chance for you all to brainstorm. And these questions are meant to be guiding questions. They are not by any means a dictatorial kind of format. But just thinking about you, if you were going to develop a needs assessment, what does your current data infrastructure look like? What gaps have you identified in the data services? Are there any regulations that are important to your primary research disciplines? Like think about what the big research disciplines are in your institution. And then how will you educate patrons? So what is your approach? Will you do a more virtual and kind of resource-based approach, or do you want to do more interactive and workshop-based things? And then what kind of services are your faculty asking for? What have you heard them say, oh gosh, I really wish we had XYZ? Think about those as well if you're forming a survey or forming a needs assessment. And then we'll kind of discuss this for a few minutes in the breakout rooms. And then when we come back, we can share our experiences. So if you've done a survey, you're planning to do a survey, you're planning to do some kinds of other needs assessment or gap assessment, share your experiences and strategies with us for implementing those effective services. All right. And I will turn it back over to Justin because I think he's going to break us out.
All right. Thanks so much. So I will go ahead and make some breakout rooms. And I will give those questions, I think, to our panelists to make sure they have them when they go in the breakout rooms. But basically discussing your communities and needs and sort of how are you going to approach addressing those kinds of questions. If you want some examples for discussion points, there's the worksheet that Adam created. I'll put a link in the chat. So what you can do is maybe in your rooms talk about one of the areas of consideration, so research activity or DMP or data preservation, and think about what you might ask your communities. So look at the suggested questions and see if you can tweak them or other things you might want to find out from your communities during this time. So we'll do this for about 10 minutes in breakout rooms. We'll try and have people in there too to help answer questions and facilitate discussions. But we'll go ahead and get that started now. All right. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for bearing with us through the WebEx room experience, breakout room experience. Does anyone have any feedback from their rooms or participants want to type in the chat about anything that came up during these discussions?
I will unmute and say our group was particularly lively. We had some folks who were kind of already had established data services programs. We had one who was just looking to get started and ask for some advice. And my biggest piece of advice to anybody who is looking to get started and doesn't have anything would either be to find a department that you know is doing a lot of research and just start speaking with them about what's going on. And the other way I would go about it is do something that's global, right? That you know that would apply to almost anybody who needs to publish research. So what we did is we started with a data management plan, a DMP LibGuide, and we put that out as a general resource, kind of like our opener. And I copied and pasted it in the chat in our room, but I'll do it here too. If anybody wants to look at that, that's what we did as kind of our opening effort. So it's a good place to start. You know, everybody needs to know how to use a DMP if they're going to do funded research. So it's a nice thing to have for your institution. And Song Yao, I see, is putting his in the chat as well. That's excellent. But you can see we all have similar resources. So hopefully that will help get the brainstorm flowing a little bit.
All right.
My break room had two attendees, and one of them has some kind of microphone issue. So I just talked to Christy. But similarly, we were talking about how to start. How to start the research data services at very start point or something like that. And I was sharing that in my experience, like Adam, just like what you mentioned, DMP and DMP2.org is always a good starting point. In my experience, it's more like Christy, who was in my break room, is the health science is a health science librarian, and he was always asked by the faculty from public health and health profession about these things. And I have similar experience talking about this kind of a thing, and I found that talking about how to compose a standardized data management plan using DMP2.org is always a good starting point of a conversation, to which we can talk a little bit deeper, because a data management plan must include something else like your data type, your data repository selection, and how to select that. Do you have any resources? Do you have any kind of ideas? Now we can start talking something else. So this is something that I would like to that we have talked, and yeah.
Great. I want to go ahead and open it up if there's any final questions from the chat. I'll just wait a second to see about that. Otherwise, I know we talked about marketing. That was one question. We talked about going in person. We talked about cold emailing. We talked about people find you if you build the services. I guess the other question that we might address from the chat is, what kind of workshops have you offered? Are there ones that you found to have a good response? Or are there specifics or general ones, or any tips around like creating workshop topics or activities?
I can go first with our hot take, which is that we actually for fall and spring are not offering standing workshops. We are only offering workshops by request. So a faculty member, a staff member, like someone has to approach us and ask for a workshop. We have kind of a standard list of like menus. Like you can pick from these workshops and we can offer it almost the next day. If you need something more, we need to have a conversation. But we have been trying to do a lot more data physicalization events where students can like put a Lego piece on a data plot, and like that has seemed to really resonate well. Those kind of like low barrier, easy to access, and while they're putting their little Lego piece down, you hand them your business card or like a little flyer about data services. So that's kind of how we've been approaching things. But Adam and saying, yeah, I'd love to hear about you too and your workshops.
I'll agree with your approach, Michaela, in that sometimes it's not great to have standing workshops because the attendance tends to not be what you'd want. So we have a similar approach where we have a menu, but then I do offer probably about 2 to 3 standing workshops in a semester that I really target out to graduate students. I work with our College of Graduate Studies a lot on those. But you know, it's kind of like a judge your own population. You know whether students are going to show up. You know the best format. For me, like those workshops have pretty much all transitioned virtual because I know that a lot of our graduate students don't really come on campus as much as they should. So this would be, you know, kind of like a know your population and know the demand kind of situation. So try it out for a couple of semesters if you want to do standing workshops and see how it functions semester to semester, and then adjust. That'd be my biggest advice.
Well, no, since right now I'm still feeling that our research data services are still in the beginning phase, so I am providing regularly research data services workshops every semester, along with a bigger workshop series provided by library. We call it Ready, Set, Research, along with some other kind of other contents provided by the library towards specifically for the scholarly research support, including open publishing and impact metrics and some other things. And my workshop covers the some kind of well, all of them are some kind of basic things like what I am providing and something like that. And the most thing is I use those workshops to spread word, to promote that, let the people know that right now we have those kind of things. Specific cases will be discussed in specific consultation sessions or something like that. But since right now we are having, well, some specific items will be introduced in the workshops, like the np2.org, like how to use that, how to log in and create one, and Open Science Framework, how to use that as the data repository or something like that. And I found in most cases, people wanted to just watch the recorded videos of the workshop instead of attending them by themselves. So I put all of the recorded videos into one section of my LibGuide, which will attract more people to click my LibGuide as well. So in the same time, they will review more contents from my LibGuide about our research data services as well. So this is how we provide. Of course, I tried my best to collaboratively conduct more workshops with other divisions that I mentioned before, like FAST, OSPR, STEP, all kinds of things, and something like that. And but by request, we will answer to those requests from the colleges and the departments about those kind of a workshop about the services we are providing, which we would love to give them, because it's a very good way for us to promote our services. Yes.
Well, thank you so much to our panelists today. I hope everyone got a little bit of information from them about how to start and establish and grow data services. Please join us again on October 6th for this series. We'll do conducting data interviews with our guest speaker, Dr. Nina Exner at Virginia Commonwealth University. And until then, I hope you have a good weekend. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching. This video was produced by the network of the National Library of Medicine. Select the circular channel icon to subscribe to our channel, or select a video thumbnail to watch another video from the channel.